Hello and welcome back to the Kerbal Kolonisation project. This is episode 4 and I am seriously thinking about upgrading mission control. We currently have 209,000 funds and we might need access to a few more contracts. Let's have a look. Yeah, as it is at the moment we can only have 2 contracts active. 75k will take it up to 7. Yep, why not? So we've now got slightly more access to stuff at mission control. Let's jump in and see what we've actually got to do. We've actually got an active contract at the moment to escape the atmosphere. So, yeah, we might have to have a look at that. Let's see what else is available at the moment. Anything massively interesting? Well, more surveys. That's above. And that's also above, so they're a bit tricky with our current technology. Stuff landed, splashed down, so we can test a few things. The main one, however, is this orbit Kerbal. And it expires in 55 minutes, so we best grab that. So that gives us 2. Escape the atmosphere is our first goal though, so I'll meet you in the VAB to see whether we can actually do that. So here we are in the VAB. Let's see if we can put together something that will get us up out of the atmosphere. So let's start with the Probidovidine QBE. And let's see if we can use stuff we've already got access to, because otherwise we're going to be spending extra money that we don't really have. So let's try that. Let's just have a look at what engines we've got. So we've got the Cogswell. We have the Cogswell. I also want to keep this rocket as low cost as we can if possible. The problem with the Cogswell is that it has no gimbal. Now that might be not all that important for just going straight up, but you never know. Whereas Spacely does. So having said we're going to try and use parts we've already got access to, I'm going to purchase the Spacely. And we'll use that and see if that gets us anywhere. That should be enough Delta V just to get us out of the atmosphere. Let's make sure we've got some communications, because yes, with remote tech we have to make sure that we've always got connection to the KSC. So let's put those on there. And as we're going up into the high atmosphere, we might as well have a go at taking some science experiments. So we'll take the thermometer and the barometer, and we're obviously going to have to want to get this back, so let's try the parachute. Stick the parachute on. That might work. You never know. And where would the fins be? Under aerodynamics. Let's put some fins on it just to make sure that it stays roughly upright. How about that? We've got 2 antennas so it balances. So that brings us down to 2.9k in Delta V. Let's give it a try. Now the way we're going to try this is actually by using a simulation. This will cost us a bit of money, but we will be able to not crash things if things go horribly wrong. So we're just going to start it from the launch pad and give that a try. So press the button and I'll see you on the launch pad. So the mod giving us the simulation is called Crash. Basically allows you to run things without running the risk of crashing things and losing all the money. So we'll turn SAS on, put throttle to maximum, and we'll see what happens. It would help if the staging was correct, would it not? Okay, so second simulation, this time with the staging correct. Let's put SAS on, maximum thrust, and see how this goes as we take off. It's not accelerating very quickly, is it really? Maybe we need more power. Then again, this might be okay. We're going up and we are gaining speed, which, let's face it, is what we want. We've got simulation active flashing at the top, so this is essentially a computer simulation of what will happen if we actually fire this rocket. Nice little mod crash, especially if you're not allowing yourself to revert. Up we go. Up we go. Can we get this to actually break the atmosphere? It's going up wonderfully straight, which is a positive thing. We've got just over 1,500 delta V left. Apoaps is currently 18,000. Not bad at all. If it works as a simulation, we'll then see if we can do it for real and hope everything works. Now that little bubbling sound is the sound of Science Alert. That is telling us we have the ability to do some more science experiments. So when we do this for live, for real, out in the real world, or at least the real world of Kerbal Space Program, we can be gathering extra science. And I've been waffling on and not realised that we've got an apoapsis of 142,000 metres. So this will definitely manage to get out of the atmosphere, I think. We might as well just time warp through a few things. And there we are in space, able to do even more science experiments. Well, that works. That certainly works. This might actually be a go. Let's lose the HUD and grab an image of that, because that is an amazing sight. Now to come back down again. We are back in the atmosphere. And now we just fall. See what happens as we get closer. Hopefully this parachute will be able to cope. And everything's getting a bit hot. So the engine. Nope, we're slowing down. We're through. We are just falling, but we're through. We've now lost all connection though. We now have absolutely no connection to the KSC, so I can't do a great deal. Having said that, the parachute did open. Real shoot. Thank you. But to make sure that we don't lose connection, we might need to give this some batteries. At the very least. We're spinning rather nicely. Let's just bring it down. All this, of course, still a simulation. None of this is real. Let's have a look how high we are above the land. We can terminate this at any moment, of course. So yeah, let's assume that's going to work. So we'll terminate that simulation, and I will meet you back in the VAB to put some finishing touches to this rocket. Okay, so the simulation worked. The simulation didn't seem to have too many issues. So let's just make sure it's got enough power. What have we got in the way of batteries? Just that. Just that, really. Let's put a couple of those on there. 5,667 this is going to cost to launch. It's not too bad. What's that actually done to the delta V? And actually to the thrust to weight ratios, more importantly. Not a great deal. Not an enormous amount. We don't want 4 batteries though. 1.63 to 1.61. And the delta V drops ever so slightly, but it got into space quite happily. So let's do it for real, shall we? Okay, so welcome to the launch pad. This is our attempt at leaving the atmosphere for the first time. Let's hope we get this right. SAS on, throttle to maximum, and fingers crossed. Up we go, slowly at first. Picking up speed though. Now we have a bit more power. We should manage to stay connected. But it's going straight up, nice and true. The important thing is this number down here in the readout from Kerbal Engineer, the apoapsis height. We need that to be above the atmosphere, which on Kerbal is at 70 kilometers. So we climb. And basically we climb. Let's just make sure we've got access to these, because I can't actually do these with Science Alert, because Science Alert will just do all the lot. So the ones on the right are for atmosphere, the ones on the left are for in space. Apparatus of 20k, 21k. Space actually is not that far, is it really? It's just difficult to hit. Well, there we are in the high atmosphere. So let's log the temperature, keep the data, log the pressure data as well, and keep that. So we've got those quite happily sitting there. And there's our apoapsis height breaking through 70k. We've actually got to 81k. That will drop as we head up through the atmosphere though. We exit the atmosphere in just under 50 seconds according to better burn time. With any luck, we will get there quite happily. This shouldn't be a long flight, but we're now 52,000 metres above the KSC, and as you can see, the remote tech system is already telling us how much of a delay we've got. That is virtually nothing, of course, but as we get out to outer planets, that's going to become significant. We're going to have to work around that. With a bit of modification, this might actually manage to reach orbit as well. And there we are, in space. So let's log the pressure data, and indeed the temperature. from in space. Now, let's time warp up to apoapsis, and then we'll start to drop back down again. There we go. We're now falling back towards the planet, and there we are below 70k. So we're now back in the atmosphere. Let's time warp down. We still have plenty of power, so we're still connected to the KSC, which was the problem in the simulation. Didn't quite have enough power. Now we're starting to slow down quite quickly. See how well we cope with re-entry. Not going super fast, so we should be fine. Yes. There we go. Lovely. Once we're slow enough, we can release the parachute. Parachute in the staging looks safe, so we'll release the chute and just keep falling, really. We haven't actually gone that far from the KSC, which is lovely. Should mean we get most of the funds back. Let's just time warp down towards the ground. We don't want to be sitting here forever, do we? I'm actually not 100% sure when the parachute will open. We do have a real chute. That might cause a few difficulties. Oh, there we go. 500-ish, 700 meters above the terrain. There we go. And we're coming down to very gentle 4.6 meters per second. This should all survive. Success. Success, that looks like. Down we come, just time warping down to the ground. And we'll cut physics warp just before we get there. Don't need the landing indicator. And success. And of course the rocket falls over. There we go. A successful launch. We've actually reached space. Let's just have a look at our messages, shall we? So, world first milestones. The recent accomplishments of our space program have attracted contributions from numerous organisations. So we've broken altitude records of 22 kilometres, speed records of 790 metres per second, another altitude record of 70 kilometres. We've reached space. Actually, we've managed to do those twice by the looks of things, which is interesting. That might be a slight bug with the simulation system. It looks like it's counted those from the simulation. Oh well. We've achieved that though. We've managed to complete the contract twice. We've now got massive scale launches as well as a strategy. We've escaped the atmosphere. Good. Lovely. Lovely. So what does that give us at the moment? We're now at 239,000. Not bad. And we'll get money back for this vessel. So let's recover it. And that's netted us a wonderfully helpful 46 science. We now have 91 science. And we've got 5,474 funds back. We're only 4.6 kilometres away from the KSC, so that's nearly 98% value, so that's most of it back. So we're now at 245,000 funds. Very nice. Very nice. Now, with mission control upgraded to level 2, we could have flight planning available if we upgrade the tracking station. How much is that going to cost? 150,000. Yeah. But if we're going into space properly, that's going to be necessary. Let's do it. So that's upgraded the tracking station as well. Let's now check our contracts. We've still got this one to orbit Kerbin. Anything else desperately needing to be done? Which, because they're above a certain height, we can just decline them, because they're just going to cause problems. Got an awful lot of part testing things, which I'll do between episodes. You don't need to see those being done, of course. The most important thing, though, is to see if we can actually orbit Kerbin. Meet you on the launch pad with a candidate vehicle. Okay, so here is our orbital candidate. Basically the same rocket, but I've added boosters and taken off the science experiments. Let's just see how this goes. Now we've got access to nodes and things, we might be able to do this. It all depends on how well this actually manages to fly when we try and actually take it into orbit. So, good luck. Well, it rotates horribly. It's sort of going up straight. So we lose those. Now we can switch to the actual liquid fuel engine and see if we can actually start to tip over. And it's hardly moving. This is really not moving very well. But it's slowly tipping over. Not the most elegant of launches, not the most efficient of launches, but we have plenty of delta V. Keep tipping it over and disengaging and re-engaging SAS just to try and get it to turn a bit better. That might be a bit better. Not ideal, but we're going up. We are heading upwards. Everything froze then, so we're losing our solid rocket boosters. I do have stage recovery installed, so we could have done that. Had this not been at the absolute maximum number of parts for the VAB, which it is. This is 30 parts total, and I can only have 30 parts at the moment. We'd need to upgrade the VAB to have more, which actually, because of what I've got in terms of the mods, isn't all that expensive. But it would be nice to actually be able to do that. We need a bit of money to do it with. We've got half our liquid fuel left. This should actually get us into orbit. "40 kilometers up. Let's just point more horizontal. I'm also watching the apoapsis height for when we're out of the atmosphere. There we go. Let's get this up to about 80. Cut the engine and we'll coast the rest of the way, but we've got to do this quickly. So we'll add a manoeuvre, and up comes precise manoeuvre. So at the apoapsis, I wish to, and we need to move it so I can actually see it. Move that. At the apoapsis, circularize and set that into the flight computer. Really? So node, execute. Now the flight computer will just do that, and it won't matter if we lose connection. At least that's the theory. It can't actually point very well. Let's just put the engine on. tiny little bit just so it can move. While the engine's running, it can move. It can't move any other time. That's the problem. And there we go. Flight computer is doing this, although we are still connected to KSC. Just hide the action groups. So 500 and something, yeah, and we've got over 1,000 delta V. So yes, we are comfortably going to make orbit. I think. I hope. That plume's incredible. There we go. There we go. We have an apoapsis of 83 kilometres and a periapsis of just shy of 76. We have managed to get into space, and we're still connected as well. So here we have a rocket that can't really control itself. SAS is virtually non-existent in this. But we're in orbit. First orbit managed. So we've also broken a land distance record of 100 kilometres and entered orbit. All this is giving us money and science and reputation, all things we're going to be needing. We've managed to complete that contract as well. We didn't tell the recovery team that you'd be staying in space, so they're still looking. Great job. That's given us quite a lot of funds in the grand scheme of things, and now we've got even more strategies available. So this is going to just stay here. We've now lost connection with the KSC. As the space center is now over the horizon, so this can do absolutely nothing at all at the moment. Apart from trying to kill rotation, but it's got no reaction wheel of any description, so it can't even do that. But we can leave this just floating, you never know. We might have need of it at some point. Let's return to the Space Centre and see what is next. Well, what is next is unlocking more stuff. We have 106 science, so we ought to spend it, because if we're going to get things going into space properly, we need all the stuff to be able to do it with. So let's just have a quick look and see what we've got. Gizmos would be helpful because that gives us an inline battery. It also gives us a lot of lights and radiator panels, and actually quite a powerful antenna, which we might need to be able to deal with some of the satellites we need to be putting up. Custom fuel tanks, which is all sorts of things that we don't really need at the moment. Monoprop tanks, external tanks for various things. That's where we start to get access to things we can actually take Kerbals into space with, including a bottle of beer. Science experiments, telescope, which might come in handy fairly soon. They're all the experiments to actually put on the ground and do things with. Let's have a look then. We can either have one thing in this final column, or we can start filling in other things. That's the thing that we really need, though, the Mark 1 command pod, if we're going to be getting Kerbals into orbit, which requires that by the looks of things. So let's get enhanced survivability, which actually will give us some life support. And yeah, that opens that up. What does this get? Small re-entry pods. That's the re-entry module, the onion, which we don't really need at the moment. Space exploration. We can then open up simple command modules, which we'll need, but we now no longer have enough science. So let's grab gizmos. And then we start to get all sorts of electrics things, including the ghetto blaster. 90 science to get the ghetto blaster. Okay. Yeah, okay. That's 22 science. That's 5, so we might as well unlock it. That's 45. That's all we can afford, I think. It is. It is. So we are well on our way now to unlocking the tech tree. We have reached space. Let's just have a look at our mission contracts that we could have. We now have this, search the skies, so we can start looking for planets. But this is not going to be cheap though. It's 100,000 science, not science, it's 100,000 funds to do it. It actually gives us an advance of minus 100,000. But if we're going to go to other planets, we're going to need to do it. It doesn't expire anytime soon, but it's probably best to have it. So we'll accept that. Suddenly we lose 100,000 funds. And we also now have these, the actual remote tech communication networks to set up. So we'll have a go at that next time, I think. So let's accept the create a network for Kerbin with 4 satellites, because it actually gives you more money. Doing it with 4 actually gives you a bit more money. So we'll see if we can do it with 4, rather than trying to massage the margins, as it were, and do it with 3. So we'll accept it for 4 satellites. We'll probably need to be able to do that as well, so we'll take that. And I will have to explore Kerbin, apparently. Return to Kerbin from orbit. That's what we can do with our other satellite that we've just put up. We can probably bring that down quite easily. That'd be nice, easy money. So we'll accept that as well. Indeed, Gene. See you next time in episode 5 of the Kerbal Colonisation project. We have lots to do.